It is an important question, so one that unfortunately is asked way too rarely. What a specific philosopher understands by philosophy. It is important because through answering that question, we can better understand how he understood himself and his own work and what he wanted with his philosophy. When it comes to Kant, he gives a twofold answer because he says that you can define philosophy according to the school concept and according to the world concept. According to the school concept, philosophy is a science, he says. And to Kant, science is systematic cognition. Because common cognition to him is just an aggregate. It's like a pile of sand, he says. So each little part could be added or taken away, or their relationship to each other could be changed without changing much. On the other hand, science as systematic cognition is more like a pyramid, or like, for example, an organic body, where the parts are not arbitrary and also their location in the whole is not arbitrary, but rather they form a systematic whole. Well, this systematic cognition, Kant says, can either be historic scholarship, when you are basically just finding facts in the world, as the historian does, but also as, for example, the biologist does when he goes into a forest and tries to find what plants, what animals live there. On the other hand, though, there is actual science, which is rational science. And that is systematic cognition that is not just dealing with facts and finding facts as they are, but rather that is finding laws from which the specific individual facts can then be deduced. This rational science, again, Kant separates into philosophical science and mathematical science. To him, philosophy is rational systematic cognition through concepts. Mathematics is rational systematic cognition through the construction of concepts in intuition. Because in mathematics, we start with a concept that we just arbitrarily make up and define however we want. So, for example, I come up with the concept of a triangle, and then we construct that concept in our intuition. And in intuition, in the concrete, I can find certain truths about that concept that are true in general, that are true for all triangles, for example. On the other hand, in philosophy in the broader sense, that also includes natural science, I have concepts that I don't just make up, but that are given to me through experience when it comes to natural science, given to me through my own reason when it comes to metaphysics. And now I try to find out more about these concepts. Well, this philosophical science, according to Kant, can either be the formal science of the laws of thinking, that is logic, or it can be material science. And as material science, philosophy is either theoretical philosophy, that is philosophy of being, of the things that are, philosophy of nature, or it is practical philosophy, that is philosophy of what ought to be, philosophy of the shall, philosophy of freedom, that is moral philosophy. Well, and this theoretical philosophy, in turn, Kant divides into applied philosophy, which tries to find truths about things that are through experience, and that is natural science, and pure philosophy, which is metaphysics, which tries to find truths about things that are, things that exist, not by using experience, but through reason alone. And metaphysics, according to Kant, mainly deals with three ideas. It also has other topics, but these three ideas are the core of metaphysics. And those are the idea of God, the idea of freedom, and the idea of the immortality of the soul. And these three ideas are necessary ideas of our reason, Kant says. which is not to say that their objects are necessary. So that's not saying that God exists or whatever, but at least the idea of God is a necessary idea that every human being has if we reflect about it. And since we all have an interest in these ideas, and since we also all have a metaphysical opinion, like even the atheist who denies God still has a metaphysical opinion by this denial, that is why Kant says metaphysics is very important and very interesting to every human being. So that is the philosopher according to the school concept. He is mainly the metaphysicist who deals mainly with these three ideas of God, immortality, and freedom. But then there's also the world concept of philosophy, Kant says. Because if you translate it from the Greek, philosophy means love for wisdom. So according to the world concept, the philosopher is the sage, or at least the one striving to be wise. And wisdom to Kant is about knowing our true end, our vocation. Regular science, Kant calls the art of reason, because, or technique of reason, because regular science lets us reach any goal we may have. So with medical science, with knowing the human body and so on, I can create medicine to heal someone, but I can also create poison to poison someone. With regular science, I can build a power plant, but also a nuclear bomb. So regular science gives me the technique to reach any given goal. But it doesn't tell me whether that's a good goal or a bad goal. Wisdom, on the other hand, is about understanding what should be my end goal. Where should I go? And that is why, while Kant calls regular scientists artists or technicians of reason, he calls the philosopher the lawgiver of reason. Because the philosopher should be something like the governor of life and of the sciences, who tells us and who tells the other scientists where we should go, what our goal should be, and what we should use our smarts, our techniques for. And in this sense, in this world sense, everyone should be a philosopher. Not everyone needs to be a scientific philosopher. Not everyone should do metaphysics, but everyone should aufklären themselves and become wise and try to ask, what is the end goal of life? Where should I go? And in this world sense, philosophy, according to Kant, has to answer three questions. Those are the questions: what can I know? So, for example, can I even answer these metaphysical questions? Can I even know if there's a God? What should I do? That is, of course, the question of morality. And what may I hope for? And hope in this case means something like belief. So the question is, even if, for example, I can't prove that there's a God, is there still maybe a rational reason to believe in him? Is that belief still justified even if it can't be proven? And all three of these questions lead to a fourth question, Kant says, and that is, what is the human being? Because if I answer what we can know, what we ought to do, and what we may hope for, then I have answered what kind of being, what kind of creature we are. And to Kant, the world concept of philosophy is the more important one. It is wisdom that matters most to him, but still they are both connected, and a true philosopher, according to Kant, should be both, a philosopher in the school sense and in the world sense, because the science, the metaphysics, should be the fundament of true wisdom, according to Kant. And if I manage as a metaphysician to answer the questions for God, for freedom, for immortality of the soul, that will lead me to answering the question of wisdom. Where should I go? What is my vocation as a human being? Well, and lastly, I want to talk about the conflict of the faculties, which was an important topic to Kant, because back then, university was organized in 4 faculties. There was the lower faculty, the philosophical faculty, which included not just philosophy in a closer sense, not just metaphysics or moral philosophy or logic, but also natural science. It hadn't differentiated into various subjects yet. And then there were the three higher faculties, which were not just about being scholars, being scientists, finding truths about the world, but rather about training practitioners and state officials. Those were the three faculties of theology, of jurisprudence or law, and of medicine. And according to Kant, there is a fourfold conflict between those three faculties and the philosophical faculty. First off, the three higher faculties are more empiricist. The theologian bases what he says on his revelation, his holy book. The jurist and politician is basing what he is saying on the laws that are currently in place and also on what experience tells us about human nature. And of course, the physician is basing his statements on what we know about the body and various substances and their effect on the body. While philosophy is more rationalist, it is based on reason. So, what does reason tell me about God and religion? What does reason tell me about what is right and just and how humans should live? What does reason tell me about what is healthy and how I should live my life? Secondly, the three higher faculties, they give positive doctrines and advices. So they tell me what to do. The priest tells me to pray, so I go to heaven. The Jurist tells me to do this and that, so I win my court case. And the physician tells me to take this or that medicine in order to get rid of a sickness again. Well, philosophy, Kant says, is more negative in its approach. It mainly can tell us what not to do. So the philosopher tells you, don't be an evil person, then you don't have to fear hell. God won't punish you if you are not evil. Likewise, don't be unjust. Don't try to take from other people what is theirs, and then you will have no problem with the law, as long as the law itself is just. And also, don't live an unhealthy life. Don't ruin your body with an unhealthy lifestyle, and then you won't need a physician, probably. Then you will be fine. Thirdly, the three higher faculties, they are not free because they are part of the state, part of the church. They have to follow certain laws and rules. But on the other hand, they also don't want lay people to be free in a way. They, as experts, want to rule over them. They give commandments and rules how the lay people should behave. What commandments from God they should follow, what laws they should follow, what medical advice they should follow. On the other hand, the philosophical faculty is free and also lets people be free. The philosopher neither wants to be a slave, nor does he want to be a lord. The philosopher, according to Kant, should stay a bit outside of the rest of society, not being part of the daily business, not having to worry so much about his career, but rather he should be free to think about it and to freely think about, devoid of any self-interest about what is true, and to freely criticize society and these three higher faculties and the lay people, and help them question themselves and maybe see their errors when they are not living in a wise way. Well, and lastly, the three higher faculties, what they command or advise you to do doesn't necessarily have anything to do with morality. Like the priest tells you to pray or to go to church, that doesn't make you a better person. The jurist tells you to follow certain laws or certain political lines that aren't necessarily moral. And likewise, the physician also gives advice that to take this medicine or that medicine that has nothing to do with morality per se. Philosophy, on the other hand, mainly teaches morality. Once again, the philosopher says, be a good person in general, and then you will deserve heaven. What kind of evil God would that be who throws a good person into hell just because that person didn't pray or didn't believe in him? And likewise, philosophy says, be a just person, don't take from anyone what is theirs, and then if the state itself is just and not a tyranny, then you won't get into conflict with the law. Then you won't ever need a lawyer to help you get out of trouble. And likewise, the philosopher once again says, be moral to yourself. Live a dignified life, have self-regard. So don't follow every base animal instinct. Don't just stuff yourself with food. Don't just drink alcohol and take drugs all the time and have unprotected sex. And if you live a dignified life with self-regard, then you won't harm your body so much, and then you probably won't need a physician to later fix it for you again. Because that's what normal people want. They want the experts of the three higher faculties, Kant says, to be like wizards who solve all their problems after they have caused these problems. While the philosopher basically just says, don't cause yourself problems. Don't be so thoughtless with how you live your life. Don't be so evil. And then you probably won't need the magic of these experts so much. And this conflict of the faculties, I think, helps a lot in understanding what Kant's critical project was, what he wanted with his three main works, his three critiques. He wanted to make sure that philosophy is and stays how he describes it, and doesn't become like the three higher faculties. So, for one, he wanted the philosopher to be free to think about and to talk about the truth and to criticize when things, for example, in the state, in society, go wrong. That is why Kant advocated for freedom of speech. And then on the other hand, when it comes to the three other conflicts, Kant wanted to make sure the philosophers stay true philosophers. So he wanted them to not abandon reason and just base everything they say on experience. He wanted them to not try to give a positive doctrine, to give new knowledge, for example, to try and prove that God exists or that your soul is immortal, but rather to focus on the negative, on telling people where their limits are, on, for example, seeing that we can't prove but also can't disprove God. And lastly, he wanted the philosophers to be wise, that is, to be moral and to be moral advisors, to give a moral guidance to people. And this is what his critical project is basically about. He saw that philosophy in his time was going wrong and in some ways becoming too much like the other faculties, and in that case it's useless. Because we already have the other three faculties for these practical needs. We don't need the philosopher for that. But rather, Kant wanted to make sure that philosophy stays, or maybe first becomes, what it should be. And only in that way, philosophy has value for people. But in that way, it has a very high value for people and for society. Well, that was a very brief overview of what philosophy is for Kant and what that means for his critical project. If you want to go more into this, I have given many more extended lectures about what is science to Kant, what is philosophy, what is metaphysics, what is wisdom to Kant, what are Kant's reflections on medicine and relationship between philosophy and medicine. So if you want to go more into that, check out my longer lectures I have given on those topics.